welcome to the LowKick MMA Weekly Roundup. I'm your host, Ryan Galloway, here with Jordan Ellis. Jordan, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Not too bad at all. Didn't have a lot going on in MMA over the past weekend, did we? So it was a little bit of a break week, I guess. What'd you get up to?
Yeah, well, obviously we had Bellator and PFL on the Friday, but it's not the same, is it, when you're missing out on them big UFC cards? So yeah, some good stuff on Bellator and on PFL. Big win for Ray Cooper, but besides that, it was nice to have a Saturday off. Obviously, it's since the pandemic hit, it's been every week. Like UFC haven't missed a beat, and they're doing so many shows, we're just 1 week off and we're back to another one, and it's probably a big another streak now of shows. But it's good to be back.
I did forget about PFL and Bellator because they were on the Friday. But we got to speak about that PFL fight, I guess, here between Rory McDonald and Ray Cooper. A lot of people picked Rory McDonald in that one. I thought Rory McDonald was going to win it, but he just didn't look like himself, and he kind of got dominated, didn't he?
He hasn't looked like himself for a while. Obviously the last fight and T-Bow, it was controversial, the decision, but I feel like even the Rory McDonald of old would have just took him out and wiped him out, and it wouldn't have been any chance he could rob him on the scorecards. I think he would have probably finished the fight, but yeah, he's just not the same anymore. He hasn't been the same for a while, and I think it's Ray Cooper's time. I think we spoke to him pre-fight, and he kind of said what he's going to do, and he went out there and did it, and now he's in the final, and deserves all the hype he gets. And I don't know what Rory does from here, but it's definitely seems to be like past the peak of his career.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. But this coming weekend, we have a UFC event. We have the middleweight bout between Jared Cannonier and Kelvin Gastelum, which is kind of a must-win fight, in my opinion, for Kelvin Gastelum here. If he doesn't win this one, he's going to have a really hard time working his way back up to that title contention. And especially, even for Cannonier in this one, he's getting a bit older. I think he's 37 or something. This is quite an important fight for both guys, and it's a good matchup. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a really good one, and I think it's one. Kelvin, Kelvin's kind of been in these fights lately where he didn't really have much chance of winning. Especially that Rob Whittaker one. On late notice, it's a tough one to take, and he didn't really have any chance. But I think this is a really, really good fight for him. I think he can go out there and he can beat Cannonier. I really do, if he can be his best, and we haven't seen that for a while. So it's tough to pick him, but I do give him the edge. I think on his day, Kelvin Gastelum's a great fighter, and he should have the better of Cannonier, who is a tough guy, a heavy puncher. But I can see Gastelum outboxing him if he's on his game.
No, I tend to agree with you there, but it's interesting if you look at the MMA maths of it all. Kelvin Gastelum lost to Jack Madsen, who Cannonier finished, so MMA maths would say that Cannonier deserves a win here, but that Gastelum loss to Hermanson, I don't give too much stock into, given that it was a heel hook in the first round. I think that Kelvin Gastelum made a mistake and got himself submitted, but I really do think Gastelum's still a contender in this mix, and I think he can beat a lot of the guys towards the top of that division, and I expect him to do that against Cannonier in this fight. I know Cannonier's a betting favourite, but it's surprising because you look at the way Whittaker kind of dismantled Cannonier and the fight between Gastelum and Whittaker, which Whittaker dominated start to finish, there was no doubt at all, but it just looked like Cannonier was a big step behind Whittaker. It didn't look like there was any chance Cannonier was going to pull something off, except for that one moment in the third round, whereas Gastelum looked like he was in there the whole fight. He was just a step behind. Do you agree with my assessment, or do you think otherwise?
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I think Gastelum can hang with anyone in this division. I feel like he's just off his game lately, and things haven't gone his way. And as you said, just getting caught by a heel hook in the first round, just like so out the blue, such a freak moment. And obviously you don't want to call it a fluke or anything like that, but it was just so unexpected, and the fight didn't really get going, and it was over. So, and also Cannonier, I've never really bought into the hype that he might be a middleweight contender, just because obviously the Jack Manson was a very good win, but besides that, an old Anderson Silva, David Branch, there weren't much standing out on his record that said this guy is a potential contender. Every time he stepped up at light heavyweight, he lost. So and he really did get dismantled by Robert Whittaker. It was a dominant win for Robert Whittaker in that one. So, but you can't write him off either. He's a tough guy. He's got a punch. He's got a punch on him. he's got a lot. And you know, if the Kelvin Gastelum who's been showing up lately shows up, I wouldn't be surprised if Cannonier won. But it's hard for me to, you know, put the version of Kelvin we've seen in the past when he was in his prime and he was, you know, knocking people out and looking fantastic. And he's still young. I think he's still under 30, so it's hard to write him off. And you always hope that, you know, something will click and he'll get back into his groove. But for me, he's understars at this middleweight division, so I don't think he's ever going to be a champion. But I feel like this is a fight where he can shine and potentially look good and get back into the mix and potentially get a big fight after this one.
And I think a lot of Gastelum's fights we've seen, especially like you look at the Darren Till one, maybe even the Weidman one before that, I think pacing is a big problem for him. Sometimes he comes out slow and he's not straight into it. And especially like against a guy like Cannonier who's got power and has a decent striking ability, he's going to have to come out there and start landing and winning rounds early. Otherwise, because this is a 5-round fight, you know, if this is a slow-paced fight and not a lot happens, I think Cannonier probably edges the decision, to be honest. But I expect Gastelum to be able to get him out of there. Do you reckon there's a finish in this fight from either side?
They're both tough guys, and that's why I think Kelvin Gastelum will be able to stand up to whatever Cannonier throws at him and then, you know, come back with his own. And Cannonier showed he was really tough in that Robert Whittaker fight, but the thing is, we've got the 5 rounds and it does really change things. I think you're more likely to see a finish in them later rounds if someone's able to put the pressure on. But very closely matched fight, and I can imagine it being competitive for 5 rounds. But if either of these guys are able to go out there, make a statement and finish this fight, it would be a big win in this middleweight division, which is, you know, still wide open. I know Robert Whittaker's the number 1 contender, but Israel Adesanya still doesn't seem keen on that fight. So I feel like, you know, a couple back-to-back wins for either of these guys and they're the next contender. It really is that wide open. So yeah, a big win in this one could really set someone up. And I think it's going to be Kelvin. I'm not sure if he'll finish it or not, but yeah, I'm going Kelvin Gastelum.
I'll take Gastelum. Also, moving on to the co-main event, we have the lightweight division, Clay Guida against Mark Madsen, the undefeated wrestler. I believe he's a wrestler. I could be entirely off there. I believe he's an Olympic wrestler even. So this is an interesting matchup here. You got the veteran against the undefeated upcoming guy. Who are you taking in this one?
Yeah, when they put the new, you know, up and coming guy Madsen in with someone like Guida, who, you know, although he is past his prime, he's still capable of pulling some, you know, pretty cool stuff off. I don't think he's you know, Madsen hasn't really showed any sign of weakness yet. He's looked fantastic, and Clay Guida is someone who will test that. He'll come at you. You know, he's got good wrestling himself. He'll be relentless. And last time out against Michael Johnson, he looked absolutely fantastic. So it's hard to write him off in this one, and this is really an acid test for anyone who's going to be a potential lightweight contender. But as I said, it's hard to look past Madsen because he hasn't showed any sign of anything to be worried about, and you'd expect them to deal with Clay Guida in the way a potential future ranked lightweight would deal with him. I expect them to make it look fairly easy, although Clay Guida, you know, against the lower guys in the division could be a tough out, and I wouldn't be that surprised if he sprung something. But for me, I'm going for Madsen.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of like Gregor Gillespie's rise in the lightweight division, where everyone was like, this is a wrestler, he's going to come in and dominate people, and he did that until he got clipped by Kevin Lee and put out. And then everyone started doubting him. So until that happens to Mark Madsen, I'm going to take Madsen in this, and probably every other fight he has until that point. And it's just hard to pick against an undefeated guy with such like credentials like him, you know, especially against Guida, who we've seen like lose quite a few times. He's getting later in his career, you know, so I'm going to take Madsen as well. Any last thoughts on that?
No, good fight. I am surprised in the co-main event. Obviously, this isn't the strongest card, we can say that. But there's you know, obviously that flyweight fight we'll get to in a minute. But I really like that fight, and it's up the top of the division. So again, but we have the discussion all the time, you know, in terms of the way they map the fights and how they put people in certain spots. And obviously, it's Clay Guida, he's a UFC legend, so that's why he's in that spot. But for me, it's not it's not the second strongest fight on the card, and that's what you kind of expect from a co-main event. But still, good fight, and I do look forward to it because it is it's a good crossroads fight.
No, I agree with you there. So we'll keep moving through these fights. Then we got heavyweights before that. Parker Porter taking on Chase Sherman. It should be an interesting fight because I don't really see either of these guys as like big finishers. So when that happens, usually you end up seeing a big finish. So I'm looking forward to maybe some chaos in this one. What are your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, I think it's set up for Chase Sherman. This is a good fight for him. I expect him to look really good. I know Parker Porter got that win last time out, but he's not someone who I'm expecting to make any type of noise in the heavyweight division. I expect them to, I've got to be honest, I'm expecting them to, lose a few in the bounce and get cut. In fairness, I think against Chris Dawkins, he looked, not good at all. I think Chase Sherman is maybe not at that Dawkins level, but he's not too far behind. I think he is a good fighter, and on his day, when he puts it together, he looks really good. So I think he will get the finish. I think he'll overwhelm Parker Porter and he'll get the stoppage, late first, maybe early in the second round.
He did fail the Arlovsky test, but obviously Porter's not Arlovsky, so it'll be interesting to see if Sherman does get the win here, how far he can go. If you're losing to Arlovsky, you're probably not a ranked fighter at this day and age, so I don't know. It'll be interesting. Whoever comes out of this one victorious to see what's next for them. But yeah, this, like you said before, this isn't the strongest card, so we're seeing that with getting this fight third from the top on the main card. But that's all right. We'll keep moving through. Bantamweights, Trevin Jones and Sayo. I'm not going to attempt that name. That is a bit out of my reach there. But 8-2 fighter. He's had some good fights on his record. I think he fought Usman Nurmagomedov. He's fought Askar, who he had a victory over. This may be his UFC debut from memory, taking on Trevin Jones, who has had 2 fights in the UFC himself, I believe. But yeah, should be an interesting one. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so this has been a late replacement, isn't it? I'm pretty sure Trevin Jones was meant to be fighting someone else, and then they've pulled out. So this is very late replacement. So who was it? Mana Martinez, yeah, Leo Mana Martinez was meant to be in there. He's fell out, and we've got a new one for Trevin. So with these fights, it's always, this really does favour Trevin Jones. If he doesn't go out there and make a statement and, get a finish or look dominant, it's not good for him. But at the same time, this guy is coming in, it seems like a few days' notice, and he's got, a huge opportunity to go out and make a statement. And we've seen people do it. We've seen people come in, get a big win and get the 50k bonus and do all these things and go on and have great careers. So it's a brilliant opportunity for him. It's just, is he prepared? Is he ready? Yeah, there's nothing, to have that win over Askar is a good win, but besides that, there's not much you can take from it, and it's just about watching and enjoying the fight, because I'd expect Trevin Jones to deal with them, but it doesn't mean that this guy won't come in and be a good contender in this division down the road.
Yeah, can't make a pick on this one. Don't know enough about either guy really, especially Saeed, who's just jumping on this one short notice. So going to leave my pick on that one. Go to the lightweights. Before that, we got Vince Pichel against Austin Hubbard, who I believe Hubbard's last fight may have been against Madsen. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I think he's got a few wins since then, but Madsen, okay. I think one of Madsen's. Yeah, I think it was 2 wins. Yeah, he got the Roscoff one. Then he got beat by Selecki. He beat Dakota Bush last time out. Hubbard's one of them guys. He just seems to be finding his feet in the UFC. It's 1 win, 1 loss. I think that's his record. Yeah. Win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1. He's won his last one. So the stats tell us he's probably going to lose this one, but it's up to him to turn it around, because he's 29 years old, and at some point something will click and he'll really start to push on and do like Austin Hubbard. And this might be the fight he might be able to do, because Vince Pichel is tough, but he's, Hubbard should fancy this. He's tough. He's 38 years old. He's picked up a couple wins on the bounce. But it would be a really big win for Hubbard, and Vince Pichel, he's on a bit of a roll at the minute. Roosevelt Roberts, Jim Miller. If he puts Hubbard on there, that's 3 on the bounce, and he's looking fantastic despite being 38 years old. So really fun fight.
Yeah, well, I was going to say Vince Pichel looked incredible his last few, and I expect him to look good in this one, and I expect him to continue his winning streak. So I'm going to take Pichel in this one. Your pick on this?
Yeah, I'm going Pichel. I think he's got he's never really looked particularly bad. I've never really seen him look anything other than, really tough game. Obviously, he's never going to be a champion at this point, but I feel like he's gonna give Hubbard some nightmares.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. The best fight on the card, other than the main event, maybe, in my opinion, this should be the co-main event. I know you're hinting at it before, but I totally agree. Alexandre Pantoja against Brandon Royval. Every time Brandon Royval fights, I want to watch. He's my favorite fighter in the flyweight division, and this is an awesome matchup against Pantoja here. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I think you've got to favour Pantoja just because he's been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. Basically, he's been knocking about that upper echelons for quite some time now, and it's just making it click. And the people he's lost to, Derrickson, Figueiredo, Askarov, the really top tier opponents. And Brandon Royval's still fairly new for this game. He come in, he made a big splash, but then it all kind of petered out. With that Brandon Moreno fight, which is obviously there's no shame in that. He obviously tore his arm, but I think Moreno was getting the upper hand anyway. But yeah, very fun fight to have in there. And if he does win this, I think he has cracked it because he's such an exciting fighter. To have someone who fights like him, punches like him in the flyweight division is and who doesn't want to see that Moreno rematch? I think honestly he could get the rematch if he wins this one. So a lot on the line, potential title eliminator. I do edge Pantoja, but I'm not writing Brandon Royval off at all. It's a 50-50 fight, and for me, it's the second best fight on the card.
Look, Royval, it was his shoulder that popped out in that fight against Moreno, and look, he may have been losing it, but it was very close. That was a one round of scrambles on the ground. Moreno had his back for a while. He was defending rear naked chokes. He was looking for submissions himself. That was a hectic round. He may have looked like he was losing it, but who knows how the next two could have gone. So there is interest in seeing a rematch there. On the other hand, Pantoja has a win over Moreno, so I think there's interest there in seeing that as well. So for the winner of this fight, they put themselves in the best position they can be in. Because right now, Figueiredo, I don't think he gets a rematch, and he wants the rematch. Askarov's kicking at the door, but I just don't think the UFC want to give him a title shot for one reason or another. So I believe, if I had to predict what happens there, they'll match those two up. So the winner of this could be the odd man out who gets a title shot. And I agree with your assessment. Pantoja should be the favorite here, and he could come away victorious. And if he does, I expect it to be on the feet. I think if this goes to the ground, Royval has got too many scrambles. He's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's really skilled. I expect him to be too much for Pantoja on the floor. But if Pantoja can keep this on the feet, it'll be quite interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in perfect world, the UFC, Brandon Royval wins and they make that, the Brandon rematch. And they do it for the belt because obviously they're at a standstill right now. Obviously, they want to put him in with someone like Cody Garbrandt, but Cody really does need a win. So you could even put, Cody in with Askarov and then, potentially build his name off that, or get Cody a win and then he's due a title shot. So yeah, I think this really is a big fight, and the winner, I wouldn't be surprised if they turn them around really quickly and put them on one of the big numbered cards towards the end of the year, maybe in Abu Dhabi or something like that. So I think Brandon Moreno will be ready to go soon, and he'll be keeping a keen eye on this fight. With everything I've said, I do edge Pantoja, but I've also got something niggling in the back of my mind that says Brandon Royval's going to go out there and do something crazy. So brilliant fight, and I honestly can't wait for it.
Like I said when I started previewing this fight, I'm biased. I'm a big fan of Royval, so I'm going to pick Royval. But would I be surprised if Pantoja wins? Not at all. So it's a really even fight, and should be a good one, and it should be high on the card, but there's nothing we can do about that one. I'll throw it to you to pick out any of the prelims you're thinking, but there isn't a whole lot going on in this card.
No, it's not the most stacked card. Austin can go. What? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he had a wild fight last time. Yeah, I think it was that Kilburn fight. That was a wild one. I'm looking forward to watching him again. I think he did look great last time from memory. Brian Kelleher's always an exciting one. Bantamweight you can punch like he does. We've got William Knight and Fabio Charant at light heavyweight. Roosevelt Roberts. You know what? Obviously, it's not the most stacked card, is it? It's not. You're not going to put this on pay-per-view, but there's some good fights in there. And as I said, top of the guard, a really even middleweight matchup with, you know, potential title implications. It's there. We've also got the flyweight fight with title implications. And then you've got the crossroads fight between Guida and Madsen. So I think there is a lot to look forward to, and especially after a week off, I think anything will do. You know, there is fans who just watch UFC. You know, they won't have been tuning into PFL and Bellator, unfortunately for them. So they'll be glad to have some fights back, and especially, you know, the top of the card. That main event is a good one.
All right, let's hit some news. I've got a couple of things here up on my screen. The first one, TJ Dillashaw was on, it wasn't Aerial Show. Yeah, it was Aerial Show, I believe. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was, or Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio, that was the one. Other Australians. So he was talking about Sean O'Malley, and he said he will never be a UFC champion. So I just wanted to get your thoughts. Do you think that Sean O'Malley will ever be a UFC champion?
No, I don't think so. I can't agree with everything TJ said. It's the fact that, you know, there does seem to be holes in his game. He clearly is more worried about money than improving, you know, himself. You know, he's there is a reason why you rise through the ranks and you want to fight, you know, certain types of opponents, and he's on record as saying unless he's getting paid for it, he's not going to step up his level of opposition, which for me, I think that hurts him. You know, obviously it's a business decision. I totally respect that, but for me, the fighter who is going through the motions, fighting the tough fights, taking the right steps is the one who's got a better chance of becoming champion. I know he battered the guy last time out, but Chris Martino is, from all accounts, he looks like a flyweight. He's a tiny guy, and he couldn't really get him out there. He had the referee to step in and start get him done. So it's not necessarily like he's a massive striker and he's going to get all these knockouts. I think as he steps up in, and when he does step up, the knockouts will come even less, and they'll take even longer to come. So there's lots to work on, but I think he's 27, 26 years old. So I'm never someone to write off someone that young who is, you know, who has achieved that much already. So he can make the changes, and there is holes, and he needs to fill them and sort them out. But you couldn't write him off. But at the minute, the trajectory he's going, it seems like he's more interested in, you know, making money and being famous and doing these things, which is great anyway. I'm sure he'll be successful, but him not necessarily a champion.
I'll play devil's advocate here just to mix it up. I think he can become the champion, and the reason why is because his road to the champion isn't going to be like all these other fighters at his level right now who have to grind through opposition to reach the top. I think they're going to fast track him. If he gets that Edgar fight and wins that, which is definitely a winnable fight for him. Edgar's not the biggest guy. We've seen him finish like 3 times now. I know he had a big streak of never being finished, but he's a finishable guy. But the reach is the big factor in that fight, which I give to O'Malley, although I don't know if I'd pick him. But if he does get past that fight, he's only one more fight away from a title shot. Garbrandt is like sitting there. He's probably ranked about 5 now after that latest loss. He's been calling out Garbrandt for months and years, you know, so they could make that fight, and with a win in that one, he can get himself straight into a title fight. So I don't think it's unrealistic for Sean O'Malley to become a champion. I wouldn't put my money on it, but I definitely think there's a road there.
There's a road to the shot that I don't see, you know, a road to a potential title win. Like I don't know how, in what world he would actually land on Peter Yan and knock him out, or Aljamain Sterling, or the TJ Dillashaw, or Jose Aldo, or all these guys right now. But as I said, he's 26, 27. There's room for growth. It's just if he wants to make the growth, and you know, he could beat Frankie Edgar and Cody Garbrandt and get that shot, but still there'd be gaps that are very, you know, that very obvious and very glaring. I think someone will take advantage of them when he gets to that top level. So, yeah, I wouldn't totally write him off, and I don't think TJ was totally writing him off. He was saying probably not, because there's too many holes, and that's fair enough to say, and that's what I'm saying. But maybe he'll prove us wrong. Maybe he'll pull something off. But I just want to see him fight anyone ranked. You know, take the right steps, and hopefully we do get that Frankie Edgar fight, because I think that is a really good test.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he didn't take the Cheeto rematch. I mean, Cheeto's on Twitter asking call him out, saying if he wants the rematch, he can have it. But yeah, who knows? Anyway, jump on to different news. Charles Oliveira understands why Dustin Poirier wants to fight Nate Diaz. So my question for you, do you think it's a good move for Dustin Poirier to fight Nate Diaz? Is there interest in you to see that fight? And what do you think about what that does to the lightweight division?
It does really put in a weird spot, because I was thinking yesterday who would be the next in line. It would be Dariush probably, which is not a great. It's not like a pay-per-view headliner, is it? So against Oliveira, so that's a tough one. I don't think Poirier should take that fight. I know it's all about making money and things like that, but he's going to get paid pretty handsomely anyway for a Oliveira fight. Then it's also the legacy thing, which I personally, I think it matters. I think the fact that Poirier has never been an actual champion, a true champion in the UFC, is imagine he retired and he never actually got the belt. You know, people, that's how people remember you. You know, when you're introducing something or when we're writing an article. If I'm writing about George St. Pierre, I've just done one on him, former two-weight UFC champion. You know, Conor McGregor, former dual-weight UFC champion. Right now, you're tight when you're thinking of Dustin Poirier. He's a former interim champion. That's all he is. And, you know, but obviously he's more than that. He's going to go down as a legend. But I do think that the belt matters. And I do think it's worth more than Nate Diaz fight, especially when Conor McGregor can come back in a year's time and they can fight again for a bunch of money. So I think he should take that fight, try and cement his legacy, make a little bit of money and make a lot more later.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you there. I think it's the right fight to do the Charles versus Poirier fight for the belt at this time. And then, yeah, maybe down the track, if Nate Diaz goes back to lightweight, which I can never see happening, and gets a win or two, maybe he can fight for the title, but who knows. Anyway, last piece of news I have, and then I'll throw it to you for anything and we can wrap it up. George St. Pierre was speaking about the boxing fight with Oscar De La Hoya and how that went down. I don't know if you saw it. And he mentioned that it was almost like the UFC, after hearing that he was going to do the De La Hoya fight, offered him a fight with Khabib and made it sound like Khabib was interested in the fight, but also offered Khabib a fight, making it sound like he was interested to fight Khabib when neither guy was really interested in this rematch. Do you think that that was like a play on the UFC to try and get his name back into the news after? Because he said it was the media that was like pressured Dana White into doing that, offering him the Khabib fight because like the media were angry at the UFC for not letting him box De La Hoya. Do you think there's any truth to that? What's your thoughts on the situation?
Yeah, I think the UFC were just like, they didn't want him to do it and they were trying to sort alternatives, but there was no alternative. You know, by this point, the Khabib GSP fight had gone. There was no chance of making it. And I think they've kind of just said, oh, we want to make this fight, but Khabib doesn't want to make it, so we can't make it anymore. So, yeah, I think bottom line is they don't want him fighting Oscar De La Hoya. They don't want him on a Triller card. And he's going to have to wait, isn't he, you know, to get involved in all this novelty fights and charity fights. I think his contract's up in 1.5 years or 2 years or something like that. And I think they're going to make him wait it out. So I understand from a business point of view, you don't want George St. Pierre, one of your best assets, going over and making money for other people and doing these things. But if he's got no intention of returning to MMA, I don't see what the point is of tying him down either. So I do see both sides, and I hope we do get to see George St. Pierre mix it up with these guys. It's just, does all this stay around for that long? You know, it seems for me, it seems like a flash in the pan, and you know, in a year it could be all over, all this Triller stuff and all the, you know, novelty fights. And George St. Pierre will miss out, but maybe not, and maybe he sees out his contract and he gets to fight someone like Anderson Silva in a boxing match, and I think that would be pretty cool as well. So interesting to see what happens, but I don't think the UFC are going to budge.
No, I don't think they will either. And I think next weekend, not this weekend, the weekend after, will play a big factor in how long the fat of the celebrity boxing and this MMA boxing lasts when Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley square off. So we'll see how that goes down and what happens to all that after there. Do you have any other news to touch on? No, been great speaking to you. Obviously, we've had a week off, so good to be back and good to have fights, and looking forward to the card. Absolutely. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll speak to you after the fights. Thanks, guys. Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.